Hey guys, this is Milkhouse1349, bringing you today the Glashutte Original Senator Hand Date, reference 1-39-58-02-02-14. This is something that I wouldn't otherwise have necessarily been interested in, but it happened to come in on a trade, and here we are. So I have the time and opportunity to actually do a video with audio today, so we're just going to take a look at it. Glashutte Original isn't my forte, so if you're an expert in the brand, then I defer to your wisdom. So I won't get too much into some of the finer details here, but this is a less common piece, so here we are. So taking a look right away at this, you can see that it's high polished, and actually I'll get to that in a minute. It's extraordinarily polished all over. As we zoom in here, something that's lost in most other videos of the few that there are, and in any photos, is the guilloche sub-registers here. You have, of course, the running small seconds on the left at the 9, and then you have the hand date complication as a counterbalance visually, and an alternative to your standard date window. So, and I'll just pull this up here and we'll take a closer look. There we go, and you can see this beautiful guilloche, concentric guilloche pattern on both registers. Again, a subtle nuance, but an interesting detail on what is otherwise a fairly simple dial. You can see here that we have applied indices all the way around without any illumination points. However, we do have a illuminated handset and a printed dial otherwise. As for those guilloche, back to the guilloche for a moment, I did a quick little bit of reading on it. I'm not sure if Glashutte Original does it by rose engine lathe, or if it's a CNC engraving, or however the CNC process works, or if it's just stamped thing. I'm not sure, given that they do make their own dials, if they also do that finer point by rose engine lathe or not, but yeah, make comments in the comments below. All right, otherwise you can see close up, everything's nicely finished, and it's just a clean, crisp dial. All right, so as we look over the rest of the case, you can see everything's highly polished, but in doing that, it's also all rounded edges, which doesn't seem to be particularly in vogue these days. And I say that because when I first opened this, it reminded me a lot of an ESQ watch from the early 2000s. For those of you who are even familiar with ESQ, I don't even know if they're a brand anymore. But again, you have this really high polished surface, and it's all high polished and it's rounded. And again, it's not my taste, not my style. So it definitely needs to be something that you're into. Right, so I've pulled it off of its box holder there. You know, one fine point too I should add is every time I look at this in the camera under these harsh light box lights, you can see the fingerprints, but I tell you, in person, you can't. It's the polishing here is to such a high degree, it's so well done that you really can't see much of the fingerprints. And this one hasn't particularly been well worn, but if you look at the case side here, there's some minor feathering from when the previous owner had worn it, but it just doesn't come out. It comes out in this, again, this harsh light, but in person you just don't see it. Everything, and I think it's partially to do with those rounded edges is just so well polished and all comes off in this mirror finish, and you don't really see any imperfections. Not that this example has many imperfections, because as the previous owner told me, he kept it in a safe for most of its very short life. It's only from 2022. So one interesting detail here is something I haven't seen in some time, is instead of having a twin trigger release, this is just a tension fit. Tension fit frame here, tension fit, butterfly clasp. Really reminds me of an old Tissot Ballade, my first luxury Swiss watch from back in said early 2000s. So now that we have this open, you know, this really does fit nicely along the wrist, despite its arguably dated architecture, if you would, to put it eloquently. But because these are each wrap independently, it articulates really well a lot across the wrist. So looking at the case back here, 50 meters water resistance. Right, not quite the 100 meters you find in a second generation Seiko Presage, but hey, we can all wish and dream. This said, even the exhibition case back, which is screwed down, not screwed down, is high polish. All right, nicely engraved. Here we find the, oh, hold on. Here we find the Glashutte caliber 39-58, standard high beat movement. Reminds me of the Cartier in-house MC caliber, whatever, that they use in pretty much every mass-produced Cartier, Bulgari, and Piaget watch these days. All right, nothing wrong with it. The robust movement. Let's get a zoom in here a bit. Give me a sec. There we go. In this case, it's nicely finished. You have your ball bearing rotor there. All right. Again, if you're an expert in Glashutte Original movements and the brand, you can tell me if any of this engraving here is done by hand. There's some vague allusion to it being done by hand. I believe it was Watchbox or one of the sites that I did a little bit of research on, but again, alluded to only. The Côte de Genève, right, or as you'll find in videos, the Glashutte striping, because it's originally from Glashutte, I believe, is very nicely done. Right, again, is it done by hand, right, by an artisan, or is it done by machine? I don't know. It is very well done here, and is gosh, a whole body ahead of what you find from machined work from, say, Ada or Salita. Right, but again, you be the judge. I can't tell you if the GG there on the rotor weight, if that's gold plated. I presume it is, because it's not stamped, and they typically stamp 22K on their gold in the movement. But yeah, again, if you're an expert, you tell me. Right. Interestingly, though, as I get into focus here, just zoom out a bit. The power reserve on this, I believe, because it's an older architecture, the movement is only 40 hours. Right, so it's not going to compete in the power reserve range like other modern or contemporary movements. Again, it's a nice movement. How robust it is, I imagine, being based on an older caliber, that it's been fine-tuned by Glashutte Original. But if you're an expert in the Glashutte caliber range, comment below. Taking a look here at the crown, so we glossed over that. If I can get a nice zoom in here, give me a sec to work my hands. There we go. Just overall a really nice dress watch. Here's a good shot though of how you're supposed to put a movement in a case and not use the case back as an extension or to get another 2 or 3 or 4 mils of thickness into your watch. We're talking about Omega and a lot of brands. So it's easy to cycle the date. It moves counterclockwise, which is a fun little fact. Thank you, Watchbox. And in second position, this minute hand and the hour hand freely is not too slow to move around, like say a SW200 Salida, where it seems to take forever for the hour hand to go all the way around. As you can see here too, hacking seconds for those that. Here, Glashutte Original has put in the movement right in the case and the dial around the bezel ring there. Really just a nice crisp execution of a dress watch that's going to fit close to the wrist without being an ultra slim, because believe it or not, some people don't like ultra slim dress watches. They still want a little bit of heft, and this has heft to it. This isn't, you know, for example, I had a Zin 104, which is not a dress watch by any stretch, or you know what, even a Ulysses Nardin Marine Torpillier, and phenomenal watch, nicely executed, exhibition case back, and the case though was extraordinarily light. It all felt really light, and a great watch, wore it all the time, but some people like a little bit of heft to it, and I think it's ingrained in many cultures that weight adds value. So keep that in mind here. Again, you have a lot of weight. Apparently this model on the bracelet isn't nearly as common as the strapped models, so there you go. The bracelet's nice and sturdy, even if it is just a tension fit and not a twin trigger release. So all in all, really nice dress watch with the high polish and rounded edges. And mind you, it's just a dress watch too, and people are very particular about dress watch, sport watch these days, right? So it kind of has a number of characteristics that really have to be for your taste. But if it is, it's beautifully executed and a no nonsense, and I'm gonna wager a robust execution. So there you have it, the Glashutte Original Senator hand date. If you want any more of the specs, I'll put them in the description there. They're going to be taken off of another website. I do believe I grabbed them off of Prestige Time from them, and the spec sheet itself from watchsource.co.uk for what that's worth. Anyways, it's all referenced in below. See, we'll turn off the power lights here and check out the lume. Ready? Lights. And there you have it. Loomed hour, loomed minute, making it easily legible. And final shot with all the lights back on. 1 light and 2 light, and wait for it. There we go. Let's just take one close look at the dial there. Almost call the dial a satin finish too. I know I'm supposed to be ending the video now, but it's my video. Yeah, I wouldn't call it sunburst. I wouldn't call it matte. I'm going to say satin. If you look at the beveled edges on the indices, they stand out quite nicely. And again, almost a rounded appearance to them. Everything's very rounded, even though you have pointed and, I don't know, even the minute hand there. Is it pointed at the end? I don't know. Or at the culminating point, use some technical terms. I know, it's very nice. When you look at the concentric guilloche of those subregisters, it has a very elegant look to it on camera, and it's something you should see in person. So there we have it. I hope you enjoyed that. If you're interested in the Glashutte Original brand, I have a couple Chopards, Chopard models coming in, but they necessitate a fair amount of spa treatment. So I'm looking forward to bring those to you because, again, they're uncommon and they're really hard to research. And you typically don't see them. So looking forward to bringing those to you. I'll put a couple photos at the end here, and thanks for watching. Like and subscribe and do all the other things people do on the interwebs. Have a great day. Cheers.